Today, I am talking to you about the process of letting go. I'm going to talk to you about what we mean by letting go, what we mean by holding on. I'm going to share my understanding of letting go and some of my favorite quotes around letting go, actually. And then I'm going to give you the reasons why we struggle to let go. So if you are holding on to something at the moment, I'm going to go through some reasons as to why this might be, and then hold on for the end, because I am going to let you know what you need to do next if you know it's time. If you know it's time to let go. And usually the way that we know is because we have this deep inner knowing that it is time to let go. We might need to release a person, an idea, a memory, a mistake we've made, a wrongdoing, an identity, poor habits. It can completely vary, and we don't always know more than that. And what we can struggle with the most, and that might be why you're here, is like the how. How do I actually do this thing that I do know I need to do because it's interfering with my life? But how? But I want to say this, isn't it so interesting that you do have that niggle, that somewhere deep down within your body, you do know that you need to let go and that now is the time. So hold on to that, because that is really, really powerful. I think sometimes we can really forget that wow, how amazing that you do have this inner knowing. I suspect that you have already tried to let go of things in the past and you have done so successfully. Maybe you've dismissed them and you've not noticed them, especially if you've got stories such as I just can't let things go, I always hold on to things, I hold a grudge. But perhaps if we really looked further and really explored, we would find that you have let go in the past. The current situation, whatever it is that's going on for you at the moment, a habit, a person, a situation, in most cases, the people that I work with, it is a person, it's a story, a narrative that you're telling yourself, it's a false sense of self. That's usually where people are feeling quite stuck that I'm working with. But what I would suspect is that you have tried to already let this go. And perhaps you have not felt successful in that, or that maybe you've just had this wake up call now and been like, bam, it is time. Whichever of those have brought you here, you're here, and that's what counts. So before we go any further, let me introduce myself. I'm Carly Ann. I support you to interrupt and reshape your attachment style, heal past pain, and develop your true sense of self, so that you can follow your dreams and have extraordinary relationships in your lifetime. So if you have been following me on Instagram or my work, you're in my membership, if you know the work that I do, you will probably know by now that I love quotes. I find them really powerful. They have been a huge part of my own process of letting go sometimes, because they let you know that people have been where you are before, not to mention that they actually give you a tip of your next step as well. So here's some of my favorite letting go quotes, just in case any of you love quotes as much as I do. Letting go means to come to the realization that some people are a part of your history, but not a part of your destiny. Letting go doesn't mean that you don't care about someone anymore. It's just realizing that the only person you really have control over is yourself. Some people believe holding on and hanging in there are signs of great strength. However, there are times when it takes much more strength to know when to let go and then do it. So there's some of my best quotes. Well, they're not mine, they don't belong to me, but they're some of my favorites. So I've put together just a little idea of what letting go means to me. Some of you will know I have a course that is called Finding Freedom. I really believe that when you learn to let go of whatever it is that you are holding on to, that's keeping you small, keeping you where you are, stopping you from facing forward and living the life that I truly know that you deserve, is freedom. When we are able to do that, we find a sense of freedom. So this is what letting go is for me, and this might change next week or in 2 weeks, and do let me know in the comments if there's anything that you would add. I love to hear from you. So it is to find freedom and be free from someone or something that you are mentally stuck on, or to let go of a behavior, a mental or an emotional habit that feels out of your control, that's keeping you feeling stuck. It is to, and this bit is really key, letting go is to accept the reality of a situation, to surrender to what is, to go with life rather than resist it or go against it. It's releasing attachments to what you wish life was or how you believe that life should be. We tend to feel anger, frustration, upset when the world isn't as we as an individual think that it should be, or that we wish it would be. And that's when we can get really stuck. So for me, letting go is to free yourself from that. I want to give you some signs of holding on as well, because as much as it's important to talk about what letting go looks like, I think sometimes we can really understand it, and we can understand ourselves and our situation more when we can see that we are holding on. So to be holding on to something, and I will share these with you, looks like obsessing over it, usually mentally, but there can be behaviors as well, which I'll talk about in just a moment. So at this point, I'm talking about mentally obsessing, thinking and replaying scenarios. Perhaps you're having like discussions in your mind, or you're imagining future discussions. You're obsessing about how something went or what someone is up to. Your thoughts are stuck on it. A lot of the time people might be asking themselves why, or they are imagining like alternative routes to how things could have been or what they think should have been. Bargaining, so kind of having this belief that if I do this, then this will happen. If I had done that, then maybe this would have happened. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about this one, but you might find that rather than moving on, rather than letting go, you're trying to like bargain with life, bargain with the situation in order to get like back what you want. Sometimes you will bargain like with your sense of self, with your happiness, in order to get what you think that you need. Talking about it all the time, overthinking out loud basically. So that might be with friends, it might be with family, it can like be with your coach. So what I will find, I'll know if someone is like ruminating or just overthinking out loud. It's not useful for them. So that might be when I sort of direct them back to talking about themselves and the conversation, so they don't spend an hour ruminating out loud or overthinking out loud. Stalking and checking their social, checking when they were last online, checking what they're up to, checking something. Okay, that tends to really keep anxiety going as well. When you have a behavior that is like somehow checking in with a situation, is somehow keeping you stuck, keeping people pleasing stuck. Maybe you check an email 100 times before you send it. So checking behaviors will be like they literally stop you from sending that email, from taking that next step. They keep you in a loop. Comparing everyone or everything to your situation. So perhaps you want to move on. I see this a lot with my clients who want to move on from an ex. Perhaps they'll go on a date, but they are mentally comparing everyone to their ex, or everyone to their crush, everyone to another relationship. So comparing yourself is another way to show that you're holding on to a situation. Feeling like really, really deep triggering responses, emotional responses. If there is a situation in your life, we all get triggered, we all get upset, we all feel emotion, absolutely. But when it's on that sort of excessive level, then you can pretty much guarantee that something's going on and we are holding on to something inside. Sometimes we will be saying, I'm fine, I'm good, yeah, I've sorted it all out, but we still have the signs that we are holding on because we really feel the emotion. And another sign is that you will keep repeating unhealthy patterns and habits. Perhaps you keep making promises that you're going to change things, you're going to start tomorrow, but you see that you fall back into the same patterns. What I should say here is that a lot of what we are holding on to can be really unconscious, so we don't always know. And of course, that's what can make it tricky to move on as well. So if you do see that you're falling into these patterns, it could be a sign that you are holding on and resisting the opportunity to let go at the moment. As always, as I say all the time, don't judge yourself for that. Like, you're here, this is amazing. You're just getting to know yourself and your situation. And we're going to talk about reasons as well why you might be holding on and struggling to let go. So let me now give you 6 reasons as to why people struggle to let go. You might really relate to just one of these or a couple of them, a combination of them. That's okay. Whatever you relate to is just going to give you some insight into what to do next. And I will also at the end make sure that I give you some guidance around that as well. So the first reason that people can really struggle with the process of letting go is because there are abandonment wounds. Now, we see this particularly when there's a struggle to let go of people, but do not be fooled. This can move over into other areas of your life. The process in general of letting go can become difficult. It can be highly triggering and really scary for someone if there is an experience of abandonment or they have deep fears of abandonment. Letting go and releasing something can bring that back up, and depending on your personal responses, it might feel very, very unsafe to let go. So letting go is something that you need to learn in order to teach your mind and body that it's safe to do so. It's something much deeper and that emotional, and sometimes for some people it's a trauma response, so it goes much, much deeper and the feeling overwhelms logic. So yes, you know that you need to let go, but there are survival instincts going on. It's much more than just let me cognitively decide I'm going to let this go, when it's a form of self-protection. So what people will see quite often is that your partner, working all hours, self-criticism, a love interest, they have been putting a plaster over these wounds. They've been almost covering up the pain, if you like, the emotional pain, even physical pain. But now when you're in this space of whatever's going on for you at the moment, where you're knowing, I need to let go of this, they're calling your attention. And it's usually when it's related to abandonment wounds, like the process of not being able to let go, it's usually in those moments really calling for your attention, but it can lead to anxiety, low mood, a sense of despair, and especially that inner conflict that you want to let go, but it can feel impossible. It's not impossible. I really want you to know that it's not impossible. I work with people on this, and I know you probably want the how, and that's what I do with people in my containers, whether that is one-to-one, my membership, we certainly touch on it, and in my courses as well, such as my course, Finding Freedom, really relates to this. The next reason you might struggle to let go is because the door is still open on this situation. It's ambiguous and there is a lack of closure. Now, there's another video to do there on whether we need closure to move on, because sometimes we can't get it. But actually, if you haven't had that closure and you're holding on to needing it, then it might be that it's more difficult to let go than if you did have that. Okay, it can be that perhaps a person is still in your life, or there is still some chance that this situation or person could still work out for you. So you're like kind of wanting to move on, but you're unsure because there's this other option for you as well, or this other possibility. Now, sometimes that door is actually open, and sometimes it's mentally that you have created that there is still this possibility. So that's something to consider for yourself. But if it is that, you know, let's say it's a person and they've said, maybe in the future, or I do still like you, but then you might find that it's harder to let go. People with an anxious attachment, because if you're here, like I always say, then we will cover some conversation around attachment styles as well, because that's primarily what I help people with. People with an anxious attachment, they usually need to believe to their core that the door is closed if they are going to be able to let go and move on, move forward, and take those next steps. The next reason that you might struggle with letting go is that the future is scary. The unknown is scary. Some people really, really struggle with that sense of uncertainty that accompanies the future. It can seem too scary, and it can be fearful to imagine your future or to consider your future without this situation or without this person, or just not knowing what that looks like. And there's a possibility that you have limits on your future. You have limits on what you think your future is capable of, or what you're able to experience, or what you are deserving of in your future, especially if you are using your past as proof. Maybe you haven't taken those leaps yet. Maybe you haven't had that secure, healthy relationship yet. And so you're basing your future on the past, or you're someone perhaps, and these are so many different ideas. It really depends on you, but sometimes people, they dismiss all of the positive, they dismiss all of their strengths, and they really focus in negatively on the world, on themselves. And again, that can make the future more scary. And that's why we'll often stay in situations that make us miserable, outstay relationships or outstay careers, because we're afraid of the unknown. And instead of facing forward, it can not feel easier, because that makes it seem like this, you know, the situation that you're in is easy. And I don't mean that. It's just that our mind and body is really powerful, especially at what it thinks we need. And so it will be telling you, look back, keep looking back. Let's just make that happen again. Let's hold on to that, because we don't know what is in the big, scary future. So that's another reason. The next reason is that you didn't choose to be in this situation. We can really, really have a difficulty with letting go and moving on when we didn't want to be here. Perhaps you were broken up with, perhaps you were made redundant. There was a change in your life, or a transition that you didn't want or choose. There was no desire for it. Even though sometimes we might have had this niggle, there are some cases where I absolutely didn't want this. It can be illness, it can be loss. And so it can be really, really hard to come to terms with that. When you didn't choose this and you desired a different outcome, and especially if it seemed like that other outcome was a possibility, it can lead to resentment. It can lead to self-criticism and blame and thinking about the what ifs, and keeping you focused on the loss. And when there is loss involved, that will lead to sadness usually. So if you find that you're feeling really low about it, that you're going over it, that you don't want to be here, you want to be somewhere else, you want your life to look different. And perhaps it did look different, and that can be something that's really difficult to let go of. You had another idea of what you wanted, and your reality is not matching up. The story that you had created for yourself, your life, your future is no more, and you will get stuck on the what should have been, what could have been, what would have been. And usually you will be blaming yourself or someone else about the fact that it isn't like that. The next reason is that you struggle to be alone. You struggle to be by yourself. And you might not believe me when I say this, but there is a part of you that does not need anyone else to be happy. And when I work with my clients through this and helping them to find a sense of safety and freedom in that time alone, and there's a whole different range of ways that we do that to help them go inwards and feel content with themselves, I see that it is possible. I've experienced it myself, but perhaps most importantly for you, I see it with other people. So you're not stuck. If you struggle with being alone, you're not stuck. You might hold beliefs and emotions and experiences that you relate to being alone. Something that I see a lot with people who really struggle with this aloneness, which keeps them stuck and doesn't basically prevents them from letting go, is that they struggle with overthinking, they struggle with their thoughts, they struggle to be alone with themselves, not just physically, not just in terms of there's no other people around right now, but also mentally and emotionally it can be really hard. And this is especially when we will hold on to a person that is not serving us, a relationship that's no longer serving us, but we will also hold on to ideas and situations because it's something else to think about. Actually, sometimes we're overthinking and we're focusing on that thing outside of us, because in that way we don't have to be alone with our own thoughts, our own emotions, our own truth, to be completely honest with you. It can be a harder one to sort of get your head around, but when you do and you start to teach yourself and relearn how to be in solitude and get to know yourself, it's so powerful. And then the final reason that I'm sharing as to why people can struggle to let go is based on your narratives, that is the stories, the mental thoughts that you have, and what we call bargaining. So you believe the narrative that you need X, or you can't change, you can't be happy, you won't be okay without X, something external, a person, a thing, a situation, and we usually get stuck in that chase. So we're not letting go because we're chasing something, thinking that that's what we need to be happy. And the other thing you'll do, as I was mentioning earlier, is you will be bargaining with life. If I had done this, or if I do that, then this will happen. We often believe like if we stick around in a situation, if we stay, if we keep fighting, if we keep trying, then we are giving ourselves a better chance of this thing working out, of life going back to how we think it should be or what we want. Whereas the truth is that our happiness, contentment, our freedom is in that release, in that accepting what is. And usually things work out. And I know that this takes trust and a belief in what you can't see. But what we tend to find is when we do surrender, when we do let go, things do work out for us. Of course, we've all got some evidence where it's not 100% of the time, but there is more than enough evidence that we usually turn around and go, I get it now. It makes sense now. And life is just easier when we're not resisting. That's the truth. So let me know in the comments, what other reasons do you have for struggling to let go? And also, I would love to know which of those 6 that you are relating to the most. Go to the comments and just write either like number 1 to 6, or share with us your experience. We want to hear from you. We are a community. I have a membership called Follow Your Fire, and it is so powerful when you have the support of other people who get you, especially when you are trying to let go of something. The community can help you to feel supported in that, and sometimes we really need that. So what next? You recognize your need to let go, you feel it, you possibly even have like a sense of excitement or motivation that it's time. It's not unusual that we might have some fear mixed in with like, yes, I'm ready for this is the time. The first thing I encourage is that you adjust to and accept your reality. The wishing it was another way, the shoulda, woulda, couldas, they really keep you stuck. They're going against the flow, the resistance. So the first is to play around with the idea that you can adjust to and accept that this is the reality. You don't have to love it. You don't have to fall in love with it in this moment. I do believe that time will come, because I think that we can get to that stage of looking for the lessons. But right now, adjust to and accept the reality, okay? Make a commitment to stop living in your mind, to stop imagining a different outcome for yourself, because you're missing the moment. Even if it's not as you want it to be, the fight, the struggle, the holding on is preventing you from looking forward and seeing what is ahead of you. And that can be such a loss, because you don't know what is in front of you. You don't have to keep picturing that there is only negative because of this change. You can have the most amazing outcomes from the most difficult experiences. You might not be ready to hear that quite yet. So like I say, make a commitment at the moment that you're going to adjust and accept that this is your reality. I'll give you another quote. If you want to forget something or someone, never hate it, or never hate him/her. Everything and everyone that you hate is engraved upon your heart. If you want to let go of something, if you want to forget, you cannot hate. I love that, because again, it feels like that release, and we are letting go of that resistance. So I hope that you found that useful. Do let me know in the comments your most valuable takeaway from this video. Make sure that you are following me. Check out Finding Freedom, my course, because if you relate to this, that is going to be really, really powerful for you. Do not forget, you're enough, you are lovable, you are so, so worthy, and you are irreplaceable.